Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we're going to ask the question, can we King Richard the next Matthew Mercer? All right, let's get into this. So if you don't know, King Richard is a non-fiction film starring Will Smith, came out in 2021, and it is about how the father of Venus and Serena Williams crafted them into the best tennis players in the world. Okay? All right, now, here's a dad. He was incredibly engaged with his daughters, and he specifically said, I'm going to craft these children into world champions. And he did exactly that, right? What about Matthew Mercer? What is he? He is the best dungeon master in the world, bar none, all right? Let me explain to you what he has done so far. All right. So here's what he has accomplished. He has created the #1 streamed Dungeons & Dragons game in the world. Nobody's gonna be even close. Right. He has created the only official Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition setting that was not sourced from Wizards of the Coast. It's the only Matthew Mercer is the only person on the planet who got Wizards of the Coast to publish an official Dungeons & Dragons setting that did not have a genesis from within Wizards of the Coast itself. Okay, Keith Baker did that back in 3rd edition, right? But it was definitely not done in 4th edition. So it's truly unique. And then also Matthew Mercer made the Mercer effect, which is he created a space for his players that was so spectacular it made literally millions of Dungeons and Dragons players regret the dungeon master they have because the dungeon master they have is so dramatically worse than the dungeon master they were introduced to Dungeons and Dragons with, or where they have spent more time watching Dungeons & Dragons than actually playing Dungeons & Dragons. The Mercer effect is massively, it's huge, right? Like, it's talked about. You'll find 1,000 videos here on YouTube about the Mercer effect alone, right? Like, and that doesn't even, the Mercer effect is a huge deal, okay? He has just accomplished, he's the best dungeon master in the world. So if we want another Mercer, right, I'm not sure we can just wait until one arrives. We may need to craft it, right? So this is done all the time in sports, right? Like, and basically, if you don't craft your child as a sports player, the odds of them making it to the top is like virtually none, because there are a whole bunch of parents now who are doing this, right? So first of all, before we answer the question, can we? Let's answer the question, should we? Or like, should the D&D community as a whole, and then, should there be members in the Dungeons & Dragons community who are like, yeah, I'm going to take my child's life and dedicate it to Dungeons & Dragons, right? Now, that's a big question. Should we? Well, I actually think the movie King Richard is very strong evidence of the answer to that, right? So basically, King Richard with Will Smith was made with the blessing of Venus and Serena. Also, you have Tiger Woods, and actually, just because I'm so terrible at knowledge about sports, there are literally hundreds of parents who were like, yeah, we raised this kid from day one to be the best baseball, the best basketball, the best football person in the world, right? And so this has been done tons, right? Like, and in the sports arena, this isn't even questioned, right? Like, they're like, yeah, if you don't have your kid, like, if you want to be a top tier tennis player and they ain't on the court by 4, they're done. Like, you can't come in this game at like 15. It ain't gonna work, right? So, like, so this is not even a question in the sports world. Now, is this good and healthy for kids, right? Well, the reality is we have a lot of evidence now that this can absolutely be done safely. And the King Richard film says, yeah, 100%. Serena and Venus are, they're saying, hey, we wouldn't be where we were without our dad. We wanted this movie starring Will Smith to celebrate him. So there is absolutely evidence that this can be done right and safely. So I think that means the answer is yes. We should, right? Like, okay, let's move forward, right? And so this isn't an evil endeavor, right? We know that now, right? Or there's evidence that it is an evil endeavor, okay? All right, and that it can be done right, can be done safely, and the sports world has shown us that, right? All right, so can we do it, right? So first of all, I, of course, know my answer is like, yes, we can absolutely do this, and we should do this, and the reason why is Dungeons and Dragons is certainly, if this has been done by hundreds or even thousands of parents in the sports world, Dungeons and Dragons is 100 times better than any sport, right? And is actually far more valuable to today's world, right? Today's world is transitioning to a knowledge worker world, not a physical laborer world, right? Like the vast majority of physical labor jobs are being automated, right? So the idea that you being able to do something physically well with your body is like, I guess that's useful, but Dungeons and Dragons is incredibly useful to knowledge workers, right? It's saying, hey, why don't you take your, we're going to do a whole bunch of activities that will increase your intelligence. You're going to read a lot. You're going to do a lot of math, right? That's going to increase your confidence because you're going to have to world build, and then you're going to have to present that world, right? And it's going to increase your charisma, right? And it's all going to be under an umbrella of creating cooperation and doing things with other people. 100 times more valuable than any sport on the planet. Dungeons and Dragons is 100 times more valuable than every sport on the planet, right? Like, it's just more, it is a better fit for activity, for time spent for our world, right? Like, there's no, like, you want your kid to be a professional baseball player or the best Dungeons and Dragons player in the world. We have a much, because, and here's the thing, if he fails to be the best baseball player, what's he going to do, right? He ain't going to be able to go do any knowledge work job, I can tell you that, right? And so, not from what he learned from baseball, right? But if you bring a kid into Dungeons & Dragons, say, I'm going to craft you to be the best Dungeon Dragon, to be the next Matthew Mercer, the best Dungeon Master in the world, and they fail, they're going to get a whole bunch of skill sets that are outrageously, perfectly crafted to get the jobs that pay the most today, which is knowledge worker jobs, right? So this is much safer for children, in my opinion, than pushing them into sports, which the fail state on that is virtually worthless, right? Like, you spend a whole bunch of time learning to throw a ball, right? How's that going to be useful to anybody, right? Like, this is kind of a no-brainer. Like, it's not helpful, right? Like, so the reality is, I think we should, based on the King Richard movie, what I learned when I watched the King Richard movie, the Dungeons & Dragons community should consider crafting, like, creating the next Matthew Mercer from one of the children of the parents of D&D community, right? And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons is absolutely not one bit less important than 3 other sports where this is done by the hundreds, if not thousands, every single year, right? So the idea that we're not doing this now does seem like a really bad idea, and we 100% should be doing it, right? And the other thing, the reason why I think we can proceed forward now is the King Richard film is strong evidence that this can absolutely be done safely, because we really shouldn't proceed with this if we weren't positive this could be done safely. But by, from Tiger Woods and from Venus and Serena Williams, there clearly is a good path for this, and we're going to be in the Olympics too. You're seeing tons of people like, yeah, my parents, they had me on the court, they had me on the track, they had me on the mountain, like I was 4, right? Like, and a lot of them, they were like, yeah, it worked out great. Right? So there's definitely a safe path. All that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think the D&D community should consider creating the next Matthew Mercer, not just waiting for him, right? Or her? Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.